Hello there. This is my weekly effort now to do A, build in public, and B, a mastermind on how to use data and outreach to find new opportunities every week using Opps.ai. If you're watching this, I appreciate it. Thank you for joining. Who this is for typically are founders. So you might be a Founders Pack member, you might be a startup founder, you might be focused on B2B, e-commerce, or B2C. It doesn't really matter. There's opportunities for all of you if you know what you're doing. And what I'm trying to do is just kind of, number one, share my own build in public experience, which honestly, there's probably a lot of things that I should be sharing that I'm not, but I'll share some good news, and I'll even start getting a little vulnerable on the annoying stuff that, as you know, as you're building in public happens when you're trying to build a new product. But I'm excited for you to be here, and I'm excited for the progress of Opps.ai. And I hope if you are in any of those categories and you have capacity for new customers or clients, please reach out. We've been onboarding friendly clients right now to Opps.ai. We've been giving out free credits on Opps in exchange for feedback on the product so we can make it better. And we've implemented those changes. So if you joined last week, you saw some of them. I'll just share a quick update with you. And then what I want to dive into is kind of, I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pillars that I've learned around using data in campaigns to find new friends that look like customers or clients. It just depends on what you're trying to grow. And we've helped in the last few weeks people that are coaches or consultants. We've had people that are funded or raising money or have already raised and are trying to grow a startup. We've had bootstrap companies in SaaS and even in product-based companies that are trying to grow. So I think there's something here for everybody in this model that we've figured out and the tools that we've built. All right, so without further ado, if you're in the chat, please comment, say hi, and I'd be happy to respond back. If you have questions, please do the same, whether this is live or not, and we'll monitor this. And I'm going to do this every Wednesday. And I guess what is it? 12 Pacific, 3 o'clock Eastern. It's about 2 o'clock Central. So really quickly, this week I'm just going to quickly talk about how to find new opportunities daily using Opps.ai and Opps Plus, which I will talk about again, which is a new product that we've soft launched. So what's new? So based upon, I think we've done 47 onboardings in the last 3 weeks for Opps.ai. If you haven't done so yet, you can book a 15-minute onboarding. I want to talk about who your ideal client is, what you're trying to sell them, and what the ideal call to action is. And from that, I can show you using Opps how you can find people that look like your customer. And that might be data that's in Opps, or we build a custom product for you that we build, like data set. And then I'm going to show you Opps Plus, which is one of the things you can do with that data to do daily automated outreach. Okay, so updates that we've had based upon user feedback. We've added additional filters in the last 2 weeks, including title, technology, city and state, actually before that. So we did city, state, so not just geography, which is really amounting to country. City and state allow you to further segment an audience down. So you might say, hey, I want to target this title in this city, like Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York or whatever. And that's a way to make smaller lists and segment them down. We've added technology, which we don't have the data in there yet, but we'll start adding data over the next week, where maybe you want to target, and we do have products in the marketplace, and I'll show you that. You might say, hey, I want to target companies that have Salesforce. I want to target companies that have HubSpot. I want to target companies that have Shopify, e-commerce providers. So that's what the technology filter. So we added new filters. We added a new user experience thing that I'll show you, where when you're in Opps, and Opps is kind of behind me, this is what the marketplace looks like. So you can kind of see there's, here's a couple products, right, that we've built, and we'll build a custom product for you if you can't find it in the main data set. We had a weird, usability thing where when you log in, and the login's been really slow the last 2 days. Looks like we just fixed that. Yay, good job, dev team. So you log in, you put your email in, it sends you a code, you take that code and log in. The login was really slow, but now that's solved, it looks like. And then you go and you do a search filter. What was happening was, we have a redemption part, and I'll show you what that looks like. And you would hit the button to confirm and redeem, and you didn't know it was downloading. So now it goes, oh, in progress. So it's a little usability thing that we've improved there. So what else? If you can jump on app.opps.ai, put your email in, get a code, log in, send me a quick email at hello@opps.ai. And what I'll do is I'll give you a coupon code so you get a free month of credit so you can download data and try it out. And I'm happy to do a personalized onboarding for you as well. We've added additional data. So some of that is data that's searchable. We found another usability thing today based upon user feedback, which is really helpful. So thank you to the person that sent that, where they were trying to search, for example, by seed, like stage that an investor invests in. And there's a weird thing where it wasn't separating out the stages. So they were seeing a bunch of stages that were jumbled together. So we'll fix that in the next week. So thank you for letting us know. It's a data problem that we can solve. And then Opps Plus, so with this little plus soft launch, I'll show you what that is, which is basically our cold outreach tool that we've integrated. It's not fully integrated, but it is up and running so that you can take your data, put it into a campaign, put your email outbound identities, and send emails and find new clients. So if you haven't done so already, be great. I will put a link in this after where you can just book directly on the calendar, or just send me a message at hello.opps.ai and say, hey, I'd like a quick onboarding, and I'll send you the calendar link. Okay. All right. So best practices. So just to recap, what is Opps? Opps.ai is a data marketplace. And the way this started was, I would say, two things. One, as a CTO in the business finance space for a little over a year, I was working with a company that was generating very high volume of qualified leads each day. And their primary 99% of their method was cold email. And I thought, that doesn't work, does it? Yes, it does. And so what I really learned about was how they did it on a very large scale, but then adapted that. So I kind of came up with our own process. And then the reality of that was we needed two things. We needed really good data. So we needed data of people that we were trying to target. In my case, because we've been growing our community of investors and early stage startups, whether they're funded or bootstrapped in high growth categories, had all this data, hundreds of thousands of records on VCs, angels, and accelerators, and then funded companies or companies that have bootstrapped and were having high growth in sectors like SaaS or e-commerce or now artificial intelligence. Okay, so starting with that data, and then what else? Like, who's your ideal customer? So it really starts with good data. For us, the minimum standard is the right contact at a company that's real, that's verified, and a business email. And then also LinkedIn is very helpful if you're doing LinkedIn outreach. And I'll talk about best practices there, but that's really where it started. And then we built an interface to it, which is Opps.ai. So if you go to app.opps.ai, anybody can register, and if you send me an email, I'll send you a code for some free credits in exchange for feedback. So that's the first thing, starts with data. And then it goes into, what do you do with the data? Well, first of all, you want to have a domain or domains that you build good reputation with. And that's the other thing we learned. So it's, follow best practices. In our case, it's small batch, have a real domain identity, have a real individual that links to a LinkedIn profile, perhaps. So if they look for you, they know that you're real. And then, then you build that reputation up and you focus on deliverability. So you have a good platform with a unique identity on the internet that has a good reputation that you maintain, and you don't blast thousands and tens of thousands of spammy emails. You send real messages to real people from a real person. Make sense? And that helps deliverability. And you make sure that you're not sending it from a totally cold email box that doesn't have any communication. So you make sure that you're warming it up with you're using it in real communication, so that helps with your reputation on firewalls. So you focus on deliverability. So we have a platform where you can get data, and now we have a platform where you can focus on getting to the inbox, the right message to the right person. And then you automate it. So the way you automate it is you add data to different campaigns with multiple email identities, small batch. You don't do thousands and thousands per day per identity. You do 100 to 200, maybe 150, 200 max, like 100 to 200 messages a day. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to do thousands for one identity. And then you want to scale that. So you would need multiple domains where you maintain the reputation. So that's really those are kind of the standards. So data, what do we mean by data? So when I'll jump on Opps.ai for a second, but really what you're trying to say is who's my ideal client? Where are they? The easiest way to segment is to go by city and state. Geography being, we'll probably relabel this to country. And then what type of record, like who am I trying to reach out to? Am I reaching out to investors because I'm raising money, or am I trying to find new clients or customers? And maybe it's a third option. So you have to identify that. Generally in ops, the core data, when you're searching for data to build data sets that you can use in campaigns, you're going to have investor or customer data. And then there's what's else. And that's what the marketplace is for, where we can build a custom data set for you and post it up and you can grab that. Title, like who are they? I know a lot of our data is around founders, but it's not limited to that. So sometimes it's customer success, sometimes it's sales, sometimes it's marketing, and there's V level, C level, D level, right? Vice presidents, chief whatever, chief marketing, chief sales, chief executive. And then, D level being kind of like director level. And there are manager level titles in there, I've noticed. So there are like customer success manager, as an example, sales manager as an example. So those are generally, you want to know who am I targeting and making sure the message and the data match. We recently we've had industry and we've tried to focus on high growth industries. So a lot of the industry data we have is around like SaaS or e-commerce, but there are other industries in there and we'll get better and better at this. So you might say, hey, I'm targeting manufacturing or I'm targeting pharma. Search for it. If you don't find data, then we have data probably. We can just add it and build it in. That's kind of the stage we're at. So feedback on that is really helpful, and making sure you get data that's useful is really helpful too to you. Technology, this is something new. It's a new filter, but we'll be adding data over the next week or two around platforms that companies use. So you might say, hey, I'm targeting people that use HubSpot, or I'm targeting people that use Shopify. You'll see more and more data around that, trying to segment it so that you can do those types of campaigns where you're reaching out to people. Hey, I noticed you use Shopify. And then revenue and stage have been in there. So you might target like revenue range or the stage. Are they pre-seed, seed? Usually it's seed or series A in our case. Sometimes you can find companies that are using debt. There is data in there on that. Or, raise, like how much have they raised? Is it, 0 to 500? Is it 500 to a mil, etc. All right, and then you go reputation. I was talking about this. So you want to make sure you have a real domain. It doesn't necessarily mean you need a big web presence. It wouldn't hurt. And actually, if you do have a web presence with some backlinks and some posts, that's really helpful. But you want multiple branded domains that are similar to your main domain, but not the main domain typically. And then you want the identity of a real person or profile. So you want, if someone looks for you, it's like, yeah, this is Michael. Ideally, if you have a Twitter or email, it's not necessarily you need to put that in your messages, but firewalls kind of check that stuff. And you just want to maintain a real email address at a real business domain. So you're not using like @gmail.com, you're using something like tryopps.ai or tryops.com. Even though Opps.ai is kind of our brand, like our main domain that we use for the application, you would have something similar to that. And then deliverability. I think best practices are we want email addresses and domains that are warmed up, that are being used in real communication, and we can help you do that if you're not using it already. Small batches, you don't want thousands and thousands, in my opinion, because you want to maintain the integrity of the communication. So 100 to 200 messages a day max is a setting that you would put in the automation. We talked about having a real domain and authority, and if you decide to put a website up, that's great, or a landing page, that's great, or a blog is really good. You want to make sure messages are short and personal. I think this is really important. The more formal you are, it kind of like, and there's trigger words, so you can use, I didn't put this in, but you also want to make sure who you're emailing is verified. And in our Ops Plus, you'll see that there's the way to verify the data. So it's like, even though the data might be good coming out of Opps.ai, you probably want to re-verify it. And those tools tend to be pretty conservative, but you can use verification to make sure that you're emailing a real identity that's not going to bounce. And you want to remove people that ask to be removed from your campaigns. I think those are best practices to keep your authority up of your domain. Because if you don't do that and you're getting people ticked off and not being able to opt out, then it's going to affect your domain's authority. And if it does, that's okay, as long as it's not your main domain, I guess. But best practices are to be a good person on the internet. I think messages that are short and to the point with a clear call to action are really helpful. It's like, hey, I'm looking for this. Can you give me feedback on ops? Can you, would you mind being an early customer on ops? That's an example, right? Like, and you can book time with me here, a real calendar link that goes to my real calendar. I think people generally will respond to a real person with a real message and a real either benefit or a need that they need help or feedback on. So having a simple call to action to a calendar. I think when you go to domains or landing pages, it gets a little more complicated, but I find calendar links are really a great way to get people to respond to you and book time with you, or they'll just say, no, I don't want to, which is fine too. And then automation. So you're creating sequences where you put data in, and through a cadence, it's going through the sequence and the volume of data over time. So you're not manually sending emails because that's not really scalable. And then you just want to make sure that you're monitoring what subject line and what message and what email identity is working. And then if the stuff that works, you double down on it. You put more data into it. You create other segments, and you test and experiment. But I don't think you got to get too crazy in this. I think it's more like respond as a real person to real people. Multiple campaigns running with different segments. I think it's really important to be really specific around what copy is working with what data set. So you might say, hey, I have two ideal clients. One's in the SaaS industry, one's in artificial intelligence, one's funded, one's unfunded. And just keep track of when you're setting up campaigns, and I'll show you how Ops Plus works. What is this segment of data? Makes sense. And then just check in daily, respond to people in a real way, keep everything personable and friendly. It's really helpful. All right, I'm just going to remove this, and then I'm going to show you a couple things. Let's start with Opps.ai. All right, so this is Ops, right? So just to show you again, if you put your email in, they'll send you a code. Grab that from the email that is auto sent to you, log in, and then you'll see you can search by filters, or you can go to the marketplace and find products. One update that we have in the pipeline over the next couple of weeks is right now products are not tied into tokens. So tokens are tied to subscriptions, right? So I'm on a plan. I spend so much a month on that plan or annually, depending on, there's some crazy deals that we're offering right now that I can talk about. But right now you're not able to redeem tokens for products. So we're going to update this so that changes. What we have updated is we've added city and state, as I mentioned. So, now I could go, let's look in Los Angeles. And, a lot of times I'm just searching by industry. I can go further by title. I think we just launched this, so I think it's a little slower than I'd like, but yeah, I think I got a message from the team that this is being optimized. So there's a lot of titles that kind of mean the same thing, which is interesting. I think we have to figure a way to normalize that. But then, if I search, no, let's do that again. So let's see what this one is. Los Angeles industry, there's 217 records. I can see red status, so I haven't unlocked it yet. I have tokens. This is going to be 217 tokens or credits, right? I confirm it. You see it's redeemed. So it's just researching right now. want to see a little more optimization on this. So this is why we want friendly users because it's learning. Interesting. So then I can download this. Oh, I guess I did the search twice. And you can see it's in progress of downloading. And then I can either look at that data. Well, I'm already redeemed this, so I'm just gonna, oh, that's interesting. That's a little weird. And then I can just look at the data in here. And then what can I do with that? Well, I can take that CSV and now you can create campaigns in Opps+. So let's just make sure. Oh, okay, so I better stop sharing that because that's a specific thing. And then this is Opps+. So what we've done with Opps+, this is basically I can create, I can add my email identities I was mentioning before. So I have an email identity. It's something I'm actively using. And then I create a campaign. And a campaign, this is where you would upload all of your contacts. So basically I upload contacts to this. Let's say these are contacts that I added, or I can remove them. I create some sort of a sequence and a schedule. And then I've connected it to my email identity. I'm going to cap this at 100 per day and how many new contacts are prioritized. So, I can go through a warm-up phase where it sends very few at the beginning and then warms up. And you can add in your email unsubscribe link. And then when you go to the final step, you can launch it. I'm just going to save this one, but this is how you would basically automate it using Opps+. A couple of interesting things. So when you're writing a sequence, let's go to here. I'll just show you in templates. If I create a new template, I have this little button. So you can say, write this email for me using AI. Look at that. And you just go, oh, I put this in previously. Oh, I want a wellness app for startups. Or say I have a SaaS data. Founders of AI startups. Say funded. And then, I don't know, let's put a calendar link in there. Let's see what happens. I've never done that part, but. Look at that. It wrote me an email with my calendar link in it. And I just add that in and it's done it for me. Now, maybe this is not the ideal copy, but if you're kind of stuck on thinking through what you need to do, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. What do you think of that? And then I can use that. I'll just saves and I use it in a sequence for a campaign. So that's kind of interesting. You've got insertion fields, right? So first name, etc. That's in the data record. So you can personalize these a little bit. You can even add images. I don't have any appropriate images to add, but there's a lot of interesting things that you can do there. So that's Opps+. So if you're thinking that you want to do any sort of cold email campaigns using your data from Opps, then again, I would just book time. Let's see, what I'll do is, I think this will work. If you want, you can actually book an onboarding here. I think this will show up. It looks like it shows up on YouTube. I'll post it directly on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. But you can book time with me. I'll do a personalized 15-minute onboarding. We'll talk about your ideal client and what you want the outcome of your campaign to be. And I'll help you with a playbook even and set up your own. We'll get you some data that makes sense. And then if you want to try out Opps+ and use the data in a cold email campaign, if you want to do something on LinkedIn, even it can help you set up that. And then just all we ask is we get feedback. and you should have some success with campaigns, and then maybe you'll tell some friends and we'll grow a little bit. But we're at the point right now where what we really need is feedback on making the product a little better in the next 4 weeks. We've already made some really good improvements that I'm happy with, but the more friendly users we have, the better. And at the same time, you can still get success with your campaigns. Like, we're using this every day to find people to use Opps, and so we know that this works. It's getting deliverability to the inbox. The data's good. We just want to make a more usable product that's going to be great. So that, because we have a really interesting roadmap, as you probably know, if you've seen any of our other video, the video from last week might have told you a little bit about some of that roadmap. But right now, it's making this product awesome and making it so that we can build a little community around it. So thanks for watching. I'm just trying to get in the habit of doing this weekly and sharing best practices. So maybe next week what we'll do is I'll show you how I would use Opps data in LinkedIn campaigns. And hint, the key is you don't want to be pitching and selling necessarily on LinkedIn. Same with email. My methodology and idea is you want to be making friends, but I can show you how to use the same sort of tools that we use to create and automate campaigns on LinkedIn. Or maybe you want to go one-to-one, but the data can be really useful because most of the data on Opps.ai, the data marketplace, has not only a verified email, but a LinkedIn of the target audience that you're finding. So please, if you have any questions or comments, make them in whatever platform. If you're watching this on Twitter, if you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn, we'll monitor all that. And if you want to try out Opps, I'll put a calendar link in. You can book, or you can just send an email to hello@opps.ai and just say, hey, I'd like to try this out, and we'd be happy to get you set up. And it's either Opps.ai or Opps Plus or both. Happy to do that now that we have both those tools. All right, have a wonderful Wednesday, and we will talk to you again next Wednesday.